This video has the best Fortnite controller binds for every controller player. Whether you play claw, use paddles, use both, or don't use either, this will work for Xbox, PS4, and PS5 controllers. And at the end of this video, I'm gonna give you the absolute #1 controller in binds for that controller for Chapter 7. Now, there will be labeled chapters for every player in this video, but you have to watch your entire section all the way through because there's super important information where if you miss it, it could mess your entire binds up. So if you're gonna skip to only your section, make sure to watch your section all the way through and watch the end of this video. But let's start with the most common type of player, the standard controller without using claw or paddles. And first will be specifically for PlayStation players playing no claw, no paddle. I'll get Xbox players next, but we'll have crouch on X, sprint on right D-pad, jump on L3. And again, if any of this sounds weird, I'm gonna show you how to use these binds after this. So reload, pickaxe, that's all on your default binds. You have to make sure to set your sprint bind 3 different times. Make sure to set sprint here as well. Change materials on left D-pad. In build mode, you're not gonna be able to toggle your map. This is just one of those sacrifices you have to make, which isn't a big deal. Switch mode will be on R3. Similar to sprint, make sure you map your crouch button in every single section as well. And now down to the editing section. This is probably the most important section with confirm on L1, reset on R1, sprint again on right D-pad. This you can set your toggle map to left D-pad. And your edit bind will be on touchpad. Again, I'm going to show you how to use this, but then your instant reset building bind, again, this is just one of those sacrifices without claw or paddles. We cannot use instant reset without claw or paddle. And then again, in the miscellaneous section, also set your map to left D-pad and your toggle inventory to up, which should be default. Now, if you play no claw, no paddles on a PlayStation controller right now, this is probably how you hold your controller. Well, what you need to do is start holding it like this. This is a spider grip instead, where you have one finger dedicated to each bumper and trigger, and it makes you play so much faster. So first of all, sprint is on right D-pad. So how are you supposed to take your thumb off in sprint? Well, it's simple. While pushing your left thumbstick all the way forward, you're gonna reach your thumb over and click right on the D-pad at the same time. So moving forward and touching right on the D-pad at the same time to sprint. And this might feel awkward at first, but I promise you're gonna get used to it very quickly. And now the other question is, how are you supposed to edit fast with edit on touchpad? The first thing you want to do is make sure you have auto confirm edit set to bold. And the second is that with our new grip, you're gonna simply reach this left index finger over the top of your left bumper and click the touchpad on this curved top right here. This curved top of the touchpad is on PS4 and PS5 controllers, and it's the perfect spot to rest your finger. That makes a great editing button. Obviously, any change in your binds is going to feel a little weird at first, but these are not even the binds that I plan. I've literally been learning these for 5 minutes, and look at the built-in edits I can already do. Now imagine if you practice on these for a full day, a full week, even a full month. Imagine how good you can get on these binds. However, if you want to improve even more, I highly recommend learning claw or paddles this chapter, because literally every single controller pro uses either claw or paddle. This is almost a soft introduction to claw, but if you want to actually start learning claw or paddles today, then I have more binds for you coming up in this video. But first, for Xbox no claw, no paddles players. Over here, we don't have that touchpad to edit with. However, this is a player named Harvey, who of course doesn't use claw or paddles on an Xbox controller, but he's still really good at the game, and I got him to share his binds with me that no one else has seen. So for these binds, we're using crouch on B, sprint on left D-pad, jump on A. Reload and pickaxe are the default X and Y. Then just scrolling through a bunch of irrelevant binds until we get to sprint. Again, set this in the building tab to left D-pad, change material on right D-pad, toggle map on your left share button, which should be the default, switch mode on right stick, which is RS. Again, set your crouch slide repair to B down here as well. Down to the edit section, set confirm to LT, which is your left trigger, reset to RB, which is your right bumper, sprint again to left D-pad, toggle map to your left share button, edit building to LS, which is your left stick. And because we're not using claw or paddles, we cannot use the instant reset building bind. We just don't have enough buttons for this. It's not going to be practical, so we're simply going to use the RB bumper to be resetting everything. One more time in the edit section, make sure to map your crouch slide repair. And then of course, don't forget your miscellaneous section to map your map over here to left share button as well. Just like PlayStation, to actually sprint like this is going to take some time to get used to, but it's the best way because you don't have to take your thumbs off the stick. What you'll have to do is, as you push forward on your left stick to move forward, all you have to do is reach over and click the left D-pad with the side of your thumb. Now, it's going to take some practice to make sure you're actually clicking the left D-pad and not up on the D-pad as well. That pulls up your inventory. But with enough practice, you will be able to get this consistently to where you're only clicking sprint. And now the only time you're ever taking your thumbs off your sticks is to jump, to pull out your pickaxe, or to crouch. Otherwise, you can do full proper piece control without ever taking your thumbs off the sticks. And with enough practice, this is going to get really easy and you're going to get really good really fast. But claw grip is what you're going to want to use if you want to be the best controller player possible. It's a different way of playing controller where you bend your index fingers over the front of the controller to easily click all of the face buttons. And this is actually how every current Chapter 7 controller pro is so good. Literally every pro that's using controller in the major tournaments is playing with claw grip. So starting with the claw binds for Xbox players, because Pump is the #1 controller player in Chapter 7 and he plays right hand claw with a normal Xbox controller. So Pump's claw settings is right stick on crouch, sprint on down on D-pad, jump is on A, reload is on X, pickaxe is actually on left stick. He places markers with left on D-pad, which we'll actually revisit this in a sec. Again, he sprints while building with down on D-pad. He changes his materials with left D-pad. He rotates and repairs builds with right stick. He uses the default share button as the toggle map. Because we're playing claw, switch mode is on Y, which is very accessible. However, in his building binds, he does not have anything set for crouch or repairing building. So while he's building, he cannot crouch because of these binds. Obviously, that hasn't held him back, but now down to edit. He confirms with B. He resets with right stick, sprints with down on D-pad. He also edits with B while not using the instant reset building button. I think he's been playing long enough and just fast enough that he's comfortable with just having a normal RS reset. And then down to miscellaneous, again, make sure to set your map to this left share bind. And with his current binds, he does not have any room for an emote bind. However, he plays comp, so he needs to be able to mark things to call out to his teammates. However, if you don't play comp, you can actually just delete your place marker and set this to emote if you want to make sure you have an emote bind. Unfortunately, there's too many actions in the game that you have to pick between those two. Now, on Pump's right claw binds, to actually sprint with down on D-pad, he either holds forward with his left thumb, replaces that with his left index finger, and uses his thumb to click it, and then replaces that back. In full speed, this can actually be really fast, and you can get used to it. Or the other thing that he might do is actually just reach over with his right thumb and click it from there. However, if I had to guess, I would assume he does it the first way. And again, what these binds allow you to do is to do all of these actions in the game without ever removing your thumbs from the sticks, which gives you full control. But Pump is actually the only controller pro in the last like 5 years I've actually seen use an Xbox controller. Every other good pro controller player uses a PlayStation controller, and most of the time a PlayStation 5 controller. And that includes Reet, who is the most skilled controller player in the world with these binds. Reet's claw PlayStation binds start with an R3 crouch, an L3 sprint, an X jump. He has reload and pickaxe on the default square and triangle. He actually does not use a place marker bind because of something I'll show you in just a second. Again, in the building section, he set sprint to L3. He has change mats on left D-pad. Down below that, he has toggle map on right D-pad. He has switch mode on circle. Once again, in your building section, you have to map your R3 to crouch. Down to the edit section, he confirms with circle. He does his regular default resets with R3, but keep watching because he sprints with L3. He has map set to right D-pad. He edits with his touchpad, and he also uses the instant reset building bind. However, he sets that on down on D-pad, and he actually added one paddle to his controller just for this bind. Now, that's just what one of the best controller players in the world does to be at the top of his game against the rest of the best players in the world. However, if you don't have access to get that extra paddle like he has, has, then you can just use the default regular R3 reset. Now with these binds from Re, only if you're adding an extra paddle to your controller and using the 2 different resets, you want to make sure you have auto confirm edit set to only edit. However, because he uses this reset building bind, he actually doesn't have a mark bind and he doesn't have an emote bind. Again, on controller, you kind of just have to sacrifice some stuff, but of course down to miscellaneous, make sure you also set toggle map to right on D-pad. Now actually watching replay is kind of wild because you'd think with these binds that you'd use your left index finger that's completely free to actually click your touchpad to edit, but no, Reet does not. Reet uses his right index finger while clicking all of those other face buttons and all those other actions to also click his touchpad to edit. His finger just glides across his controller so quickly, and it's absolutely crazy how fast he is, but that's just what you get when you practice as much as he does. However, a lot of people will say that claw hurts their hands and they want to avoid permanent damage to their fingers. So the final controller method that I think should be the most popular way to game is to play with paddles. Paddles keep your hands and fingers in a natural position, but achieves the same thing as claw because you can click 4 extra buttons on the back, which allows you to keep your thumbs on the sticks, and this is actually the way that I play. So on 4 paddles for Xbox or PlayStation, here's the bind. Starting with crouch on R3, which is our right stick, sprint on left D-pad, which we have mapped to our inner right paddle. Jump is on X, which is going to be mapped to our furthest left paddle. Reload is on square, pickaxe is on triangle, which both of these we're gonna have to take our thumbs off to press because we have more important binds. So down to building, again set this to left D-pad, which once again is your inner right paddle. Change materials is going to be on your touchpad, and because of that, in our build mode we're not gonna be able to open the map, so that's just one of our controller sacrifices we have to make. Switch mode is going to be on L3, which is your left stick. Again, make sure to set crouch slide repair in the building section also to R3. Down to the edit section, we have confirm on L2, reset on R3, sprint once again on that left D-pad, toggle map on your touchpad, and edit building on circle, which is going to be your far right side paddle. Now along with that, we are going to be using the instant reset building button, which is down on D-pad, which we're going to set to our inner left side paddle. So if we're holding our controller and we're looking at our paddles from this side, from left to right is going to be jump, instant reset, sprint, and edit. Now we do still have right on D-pad open, which you can either set to place marker or have it be an emote bind. And then make sure you go down to miscellaneous and set your toggle map to touchpad again, which by the way, touchpad for Xbox players is just this left share button. That's the same button. Now with these buttons, what you also want to do is go to your game section, go down to editing, and make sure you have auto confirm edits only set to edit. The reason we're doing this is because it gives us so much flexibility in how we actually edit and build. This way you can actually do this, where you can edit a build and reset it in the same action, which this can especially be helpful when you're building like this. It just lets you be a lot more fluid and have a lot more freedom in what you can do. But at the same time, we also have an instant reset button that you can use to reset builds incredibly quickly. Now, if you can get 4 paddles, I highly recommend it. 4 paddles is so good to play on right now. If you only have access to get 2 paddles, I recommend putting sprint on touchpad instead, so you can easily sprint and then just replace map over on your left D-pad. And when you do this, unfortunately, you're gonna have to get rid of the instant reset building bind, but you'll still be able to reset fast enough if you come over here and make sure you set your auto confirm edits to both. For Xbox players, do the same thing except for set sprint to your left D-pad. But if you want the singular best Fortnite controller in binds pairing, it's playing on PC with the Scuf Envision Pro using these binds. This controller setup is literally overpowered. It's crouch on R3, sprint on left D-pad, which is set to my inner left paddle. It's jump on X, which is set to my outer left paddle. It's reload on square, pickaxe on triangle, which is set to my inner right paddle. It's again that left D-pad paddle sprint. Change materials is on touchpad. Switch mode is on L3. Again, crouch slide repair is on R3. For editing, confirm is on L2. Reset is on R3. Sprint is again on that left D-pad paddle. Toggle map is your touchpad, which is actually this share button. Edit building is circle, which is my outer right paddle. Reset building, the instant reset button is on right D-pad, which is set to my right side action button. I can still have an emote button on down on D-pad, and my miscellaneous is toggle map on the share button. Now, what makes this controller incredible is not only does it feel super nice, but because we're on PC, there's a software where you can actually go in and map a keyboard and mouse macro. So in here, you can see what I have all of my buttons set to. However, my left side button is actually set to scroll wheel up, and then this bind is actually set to right on D-pad. So my instant reset button is actually just clicking this right side action button. And then because I have my left side action button set to a macro scroll wheel, look at this, I can just macro scroll wheel pick up all the loot. So if I'm in a box looting or I'm trying to get a weapon instead of someone else, I can just scroll wheel the entire thing. And that's not taking up any of my controller buttons. I have all my extra controller buttons already, along with my side action instant reset button. I mean, if you play controller on PC, this has literally never been more broken. And I'll link this controller in the comments if you want to check it out. It's not as expensive as you think. Now click here if you want to watch the best Chapter 7 controller settings. If this video helped you, please make sure to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.